Are you a leader that has high turnover and you find yourself feeling more like an entertainer than you do a leader? Well, if so, this is for you.
So we have two simple things that you can integrate right now to shift your involvement as a leader in your organization. The first one is to have a strong why and strong core values. And we're not just talking about the core values that you got off the internet that you write on the wall of your break room or stencil on the wall behind your reception desk. We're talking about core values that are actually meaningful, specifically core values that come from the leadership that actually create a connection between the people that are tasked with leading those that are involved in an organization, the people that are tasked with driving the progress of a company forward, and how that company actually shows up. What do we actually stand for? What's the impact that we want to make as a company? So we want those core values to be meaningful, and we want the why to be the same thing. Why are you doing it? Right? Why are you doing it personally? Why are you showing up every day? Why do you care about the people that you are in service of, which is those that are on your team, those that you are leading? Why is it meaningful that you're doing what you're doing? So we need to have really, really strong attachment and really clear idea of why core values and a really foundational why matter to us and why those are meaningful. And the next, we need to make sure that we give our team the ability to see themselves in the company's core value and in the company's why. And I want to walk you through just a scenario that we see play out all the time. And let's imagine that you have a team of individuals that are unclear why the company's doing what they're doing, why unclear why the leadership is showing up, why they're making the decisions that they're making. They don't feel connected to the core values. They don't understand who they are as individuals. They don't understand why their work has meaning, how they're connected to the overall mission, vision, and values of the company. And let's imagine how those people are going to work from day to day, right? Let's think about their productivity. Let's think about their excitement. Let's think about how they're going to contribute. Let's think about their ability to connect with their coworkers and the rest of their team. And you can imagine that that's not going to play out very well, right? And I think that's a pretty commonplace scenario that unfortunately we see out play out time and time again. People show up, they punch the clock, and they go home. And they have no real understanding of why their work matters or how their work adds up to the sum total of the efforts and the direction of that company. Now let's shift the perspective and imagine an organization where it's actually the antithesis of that. The people that are on that team understand, have a clear idea of their personal why, their personal core values. They understand how those equal the greater good, how those add up and connect to the core values and the why of the organization and the leadership. We can imagine that those individuals are going to be much more productive. They're going to be much more excited. Let's think about a sales and a marketing team that understands what they're selling. They're clear and connected to it. They understand what they're marketing, the marketing copy, the marketing language, the brand development. All that is going to be much more comprehensive and much more productive because the team understands why they're there. They understand how their efforts add up to, again, the sum total of what we're trying to produce as a company, the impact that we want to make. And so Christina and I like to describe that as a bridge, right? We want to build a bridge between the team and the leadership and the company as a whole. And we want everybody to see that through line very, very clearly. And when we do that, everything runs smoother, right? And then we also see the primary metrics of a business move in the right direction, right? We see changes in revenue. We see decreases in turnover. We see increases in retention. We see increases in employee productivity, happiness. The list goes on. The needle moves in very, very key ways when everyone understands why they're there, what matters most to them, and how that adds up to the impact that we're trying to make as an organization and our responsibility as leaders to pour back into those individuals. So those are two things that you can do right now. Get clear on your core values and help your team see that as well so that they can build that bridge and understand how they're connected to the organization. Christine, walk us through a few other scenarios, some real life kind of case studies, if you will, of how we've seen that show up in the work that we've done with organizations and leaders around the world.
Yeah, we've seen this so much. We work with all of the leaders that we work with on these things, and it really does move the needle. So, this first story, these are real life experiences and real businesses. And so, this first story is of a leader in the home services industry. They have about 150 employees, and they've been in business for almost 30 years. And so it's a leader we worked with for a long time. And he called me up one day and he was like ranting about some employee that had no common sense, that just couldn't get it right, because those things happen. Like, as a leader who has a team, has employees, like there's those moments where honestly we all feel like that. That's a part of leadership. And common sense has been that like real thing. I think that in so many ways, some of us who've been in leadership, maybe some of the older generations, we say things like common sense is just gone. There's no more common sense. And so a lot of times when we're looking through that lens, we can say those things and they're very abstract. We're talking about the whole world, all people, in all scenarios. And so, one thing that's really helpful is if we can take abstract and bring it to a realistic view. And so, my question to him was, okay, well, let's go ahead and actually create common sense within your company. And that actually starts with your core values. So, if you want to feel like your team has common sense, and they have autonomy and they are leaders, then you actually have to bring that down and think about what common sense is to your team. What does common sense mean within your team? Because we also work with leaders that have many different generations from many different cultures, and there really is no common sense at that point, especially when you're looking at different cultural or age differences. So, bring it down and start to map out your core values from a state of common sense. And so, in this scenario, the employee, one of his lead employees that's leading other people, decided to smoke on the job site and was cursing around customers. Now, this is not a negative individual by any means, but one of their core values is quality service and products. And so, if you think about that, most of us would be like, well, yeah, that's not quality service or like any type of product or service if that's how you're treating a customer's home. But again, we can't assume. So we helped him pull that down. And then I asked him the question, well, have you helped your employee, that leader that's leading other people, have you helped him understand what that means to him? Have you helped him understand what quality service and products means to him? And he was like, well, no, I haven't. I've never asked that question. And so all he did was sit down with him for a few minutes in between the jobs the next day, and he asked him what that meant to him when he's had the best service, what kind of service he likes. His wife stays at home. Who does he want in his home when he's away? And it completely changed the scenario. The guy was at work with his buddies. He wasn't thinking, he was in the moment with the people he works with every day. He lit up a cigarette. He was having a conversation about something frustrating the day before. He was not thinking or aware of the impact that he was creating on that customer. It was not intentional. And this employee has actually worked with him for another 3 years and he's never had another problem again. So these are sustainable, simple changes that you can make today. The next one, this was a woman that we worked with actually within one of our companies, probably about 10 years ago, or for the last 10 years. And she's been incredible. But there has been a few times that I've had a really hard time. This is a personal story of me leading. I've had a few times where I've had a hard time getting her to see her value. And so this time in particular is within sales. And so we have had the sales conversation 100 million times at this point. It's not a hard product to sell. Again, it's client facing. And so we had this conversation and it just was not connecting. And so we went back to our core values. One of those core values in that company is abundance. And she actually has that same core value. So we want to create abundance for our customers and our employees. That's actually the company's core value. And so she was looking through hers and I'm like, what does that look like in action? How does abundance actually start? And she's like, well, it starts with me owning my value. I didn't even have to tell her. She got it. And I'm like, okay, so if you can't own your value, who actually doesn't get serviced? And she's like, well, the company. I'm like, no, actually, it's not the company. It's the customer. Because what she was doing was she wasn't offering correct services because she didn't think that they could afford it or she was worth it. And so as we unwound this story, she realized that the impact that she was actually creating was negative on the customer because these are busy moms, busy families, busy parents that need the services. They're already at the home. So upselling and adding these services while they're already there saves them time, money, and effort to call another company, all of those things. And so she went from our lowest sales person all the way up to the highest. And she's stayed there for the last literally almost 10 years. And so if you just take these few simple things, you ask your employees questions of what matters most to them, why they want to, or why this matters to them and what they want out of it, and you ask them impact questions like that, you're going to see the needle move so much. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. These were very short conversations, but these simple conversations will change your entire culture, your environment, and it will make you a lot more money and it'll engage your employees and retain your people a lot easier. So if you have questions about this, if you don't have core values and you don't have a why statement for your team and for your company, feel free to message us, reach out to us. We can help you get there and we can help you integrate so you can see these changes with your own within your own business.